Hey guys, it's MrBKainX, and I'm joined by fellow Avatar Wan admins, Cliffjumper.
Hello.
And BH.
BH.
And we are here to review the third episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender, the Southern Air Temple. Brett, do you want to start?
Sure, I'll start. It's a really solid episode. It's a banger. It's the third episode we get.
Banger,
it's like, I think Brendan had said it last week, where you kind of have to watch the first three to get like a pretty, good understanding of like the world and the characters. And I think the third act in this is the Southern Air Temple, which does a really good job of that. I guess I'll focus on the Aang portion of it. It's really fun. Like, you get the whole part where he's in like denial of like wanting to be you kind of know that he knows that like he's not that he knows that the Fire Nation killed the Airbenders to like an extent, but like he doesn't know really like. Wait, I messed up.
Like he hasn't accepted.
Yeah. He hasn't like accepted.
It hasn't fully
sunk in.
It hasn't sunk into like his brain that like they murdered basically everyone he knows. And I think there's a really powerful scene where like you see Gyatso's skeleton, and then Aang obviously goes into like, the Avatar state, and then he really just is like in this, almost like he's like so shocked and like somewhat like demoralized that like everyone he knows is just dead, and like it's just really sad, and it's just like he feels like he's responsible. We obviously find a little bit later out in the show that he's like responsible for this in like a way. So it's like really depressing and really just emotional to see Aang distraught like that. For really the first time in the entire show, we see him this way, like that kind of like raw emotion. And we'll see more of like the uncontrollability of the Avatar state later on in the series, and so the Aang portion really good.
I agree. What I really like is about this episode in regards to like Aang's character is that we saw like in the first two episodes he's like really happy-go-lucky and he's really likable, and then this episode you get essentially what is like a core tenet of his character, and it's just like it fleshes him out a lot more. It's like that we just spent two episodes seeing him like really happy and fun and everything, and then this episode ends off with him like in an unbelievable rage, and it's just like, whoa, shit! Like it just lets the audience know that this is going to be a different show, folks. And yeah, like I really love that stuff. I also love that there's like a wind vortex that's in this episode, like when he goes into the Avatar state, and the shot is set up very similarly to the Firebending Masters episode in Book 3, where we see the fire vortex with all the colors. And I think it's really great because it shows that in this episode, like, wind, the most gentle the four elements, is being the most violent. And in the Firebending Masters, it's kind of like the most violent element, which is fire, being the most gentle, like about life and like this, and about drive and stuff like that. I just think that that's really great. If you look at those two shots side by side, they're basically the exact same shot. And I actually think that the vortex might be moving in the same direction too, which is really cool. So I think that's intentional. And it also works because it's like kind of a bookmark. It shows like this happened very early in the show, and that Firebending Masters thing happens very late in the show. So it's kind of like a storybook. It's like a parallel.
It's like poetry, it rhymes.
It's like poetry.
Yeah, it rhymes, yeah.
Thank you, George Lucas. But yeah, like there's some other really great stuff in the episode. My favorite part of it personally is I'm not usually one of those people that are just like, oh, I love the action the most. It's like, I'm not usually like that. While I do love the action pretty collectively throughout the entire show, I think that this early on, it's a pretty good standout moment with the Agni Kai, with Zhao and Zuko. And I just think that the way it's handled is so beautiful. Like, it's like it feels like a genuine martial arts duel. Like, it feels like a legitimate kung fu movie that was made in Hong Kong. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if I saw Jackie Chan shoot out of nowhere. Like, it just feels so cool. It has this really rich Chinese, Japanese flavor to it. And I really love the art direction, how, like, the sky's red, and it's a bit of a parallel to the final Agni Kai in Book 3, which is, in my opinion, the best fight in the entire franchise. Yeah, just really, really great stuff, and I love the addition of Zhao in this episode, because it's basically the foil to Zuko, and it's basically, the three of us, we were just watching the episode to get caught up on it, and we kind of just joked around how it's just like, Zhao is the one who is just like, hey, Zuko's bad, but he's not this fucking bad. He's the foil, and I think it was really smart writing to bring him into it. And I also feel like he's a pretty underrated villain. I actually think that his motivation is very clear. His voice actor, Jason Isaacs, who is Lucius Malfoy in Harry Potter, is fucking fantastic. I love his design. I just think it's a great character, honestly. He's very simple. He's not like tragic backstory and all these things happening to him, but like, he serves the purpose in the plot, and I think that he's very underrated. So that's what I have to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess to bounce off the point of this is a third episode of sort of the trilogy that I would recommend starting with, because it does a lot of things that the first two episodes couldn't really do. We finally see outside the Water Tribe, since we are going to be exploring this world. We see the Air Temple. We see the port that they dock in, where they meet Zhao. We are introduced to Zhao, who will of course be a running character throughout the season, and additionally, while Zuko will be a main character and a main threat for some time, it shows us that there will be other villains with other goals that work against both the team and Zuko, which is true for Season 2 as well. And especially with the emotional stuff in this episode, by watching the first two episodes, you might get the impression that this show will occasionally deal with emotional moments and stuff like that, but that perhaps the Arno-Mid genocide is a simple excuse to have Aang be the last of its kind. But no, they really go and address the fact that, no, it's a big plot point that they committed a genocide and he has to face that. And I also really like that it's not just a good emotional episode for Aang as well as the Zuko part of the episode, but also for Sokka, who many people will still too often write off as a bit of a comic relief character. I've heard various people say the opposite things of either he was serious at first and then got more comedic, or he was comedic at first and eventually he got some depth. But really, I think from episode 3, you have this role where Katara is trying to be what can be considered an adult role, motherly, but in doing so, she's trying to prevent Aang from seeing what he has to eventually see, that his people will kill off by the Fire Nation. And Sokka has to actually step up a bit and be like, no, Katara, he has to face this eventually. I know you have good intentions, but this isn't something you can protect him from. This happened.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of Sokka, I have something really, really key to say here about his character that I really love. And it's really displayed in this episode pretty well. So when Sokka enters the statue room, and he's just like, past lives? Katara, you really believe in that stuff? Like, that's like kind of the introduction. If it wasn't introduced already, I'm a little foggy with my memory for some reason. But like, it's the first time we really see like Sokka. He he's like a no bullshit kind of guy. Like, he's not into spirituality. He's not very religious. He's more logical and stuff like that. Yeah. And what I think is really great
of that in the earlier 2 episodes.
Yeah. Well, you do kind of, because he's just like, he's like, I didn't ask for all this flying and magic, and it's like, yeah, like, I get it. But, like, in this episode in particular, like, this is the moment where it's just like, it's not just about magic. He just doesn't think that, like, this shit makes any sense, really. And he's just more logic-based. And they delve into it more into, like, the fortune teller episode. But what I think is really great, because all this stuff is really great setup for the finale of Book 1. Yeah. Which I'll just say briefly, because, like, a character that he loves turns into the moon spirit and dies. And, like,
spoilers.
Yeah. Oh, well, we've already seen the show, like, so...
You don't know who's watching this.
Yeah.
But, like, we see, like, in that moment, like, when he... And I recommend people go back to the moment where, like, Yue's going away, and Sokka's, like, looking up at her, like, he just has this look of disbelief, like, he cannot believe what is happening right in front of him, like... And I just think that it's so touching. Like, it's kind of like I said this before at one point, not with you guys, but, like, I've said this to somebody, that, like, it was kind of like somebody finding Jesus for the first time.
Yeah.
Like, it's like somebody found a faith. Like, it's not that he has a faith because of it, because he witnessed this thing happen, but it's because, like, he finally sees something that science can't explain, and, like, it shakes him. And, like... I don't know. I just find I find that extremely compelling, and, like, nobody really talks about that part of Sokka that much. And I just think that that's so compelling. And every time I see that scene in the finale of Book 1, I always start to tear up.
Yeah, I guess on, like, a different note, I was just gonna say, like, you get, like, the first glimpses of, like, both Aang and Zuko's backstory. Like, you kind of get the hint about his father and, like, how he was kind of either burned by a master of some kind, or we're not really sure what or who did that to him. We know that a firebender of some sort had probably scarred him pretty badly. And then you get on the Aang part of it, where you kind of, you know, find out with, like, Gyatso, he was trained by, like, the greatest airbender in the southern air temple, and that's really cool. And then even, like, to foreshadow that further, like, how Roku and Gyatso were friends, and it's kind of cool, like, you're seeing, like, Aang's past life is connected to Gyatso, who is friends with Aang in a later life, and, like, and then Aang will meet Roku eventually. So, like, it all kind of, like, comes full circle, and which is really sweet and really, like, interesting. So yeah, you get, like, that sort of backstory to both characters, and then you get more of that in a later episode, the Storm, which is fantastic. Kind of explained further. So it's, like, the first setup to that.
Yeah, and I think, like, what the three of us are saying right here is a really good sign that, you know, this is a really good episode, and it does set up some really major plot points that get picked upon later. So, yeah, I agree with MrBKainX. Like, this is it really is kind of like the first 2 episodes in this are kind of like a trilogy. And, like, if you want to get hooked on the show, I personally think the first episode is enough. But, like, if you really want to get hooked, you watch the first 3.
The first 3, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we said positive things about the first 2 episodes as well. So certainly, I think if somebody watched it, they agreed with our opinion that they're good, they'd probably be interested in the third. But I think just watching the third gives you the impression that this isn't just a good show or even a really good show. This is something very special, and I think that's you got to sort of watch the third episode, I think, to get a better idea of how good the show will become.
Yeah.
Compared to the first 2, where they are good episodes, and they do seem like they could be a setup to a good show, but I think the Southern Air Temple is almost on another level. Just in terms.
This is the first taste, like, of the emotion,
and it has, like, the hints of, like, character development, like even with, like, Zhao's development, where you kind of see, not development, but, like, his
too prideful.
Where he, like, exactly, he's too prideful, and even when he loses against Zuko, you see him strike back, and that's kind of, like, foreshadowing for his kind of demise. which that's really cool. That's like really good writing there. So this episode definitely has like the feel of like the rest of the show. Where like, I'm not saying the first two don't, but like this episode onward kind of, I don't know, has that like extra bit of like character and extra bit of like development that just kind of puts it like a notch above like every other like cartoon basically out there, or like every other show out there. Yeah.
I think
pretty much all I have to say personally.
I think we've said a lot. If you happen to be watching this episode and you haven't seen the series, definitely watch the first 3 episodes. And if you have seen the show, feel free to rewatch along with us and comment below your thoughts on this episode specifically and how it connects to other episodes. Does anyone have any last minute thoughts?
And send your hate mail to me for spoiling.
Yeah, definitely. Redirect all hate mail for anything ever to Cliffjumper. And not me,
always.
Because I know I didn't put Tommy as number 1 in the Ranking the Green Rangers video, just like last time. But I digress.
Let me talk to you why Zuko is my favorite character. When I was a kid.
Favorite character.
All right, just to check to be safe. This is it, right? Nobody has anything else to say?
Yeah.
Oh wait! One last thing. Momo gets introduced. How did we miss that?
Oh my god!
You're
right.
Forgot
Momo.
Yeah. And he's very small in this episode.
But he's like
it's a small part. He's just like a little. But
it's
mostly to help with the comedy, but it is sort of an emotional thing too, where it's like Aang is like.
It's the first bit of hope he has.
Where like him, Yumi, and Appa were all that's left of this temple, this civilization. We got to stick together. You're a new part of this family. Peach, Lemur.
And also what like Aang kind of goes through with Momo is like always really sweet. It's like all like the little moments that he has with him. So shout out to Momo.
Last check. Anything else?
We got anything else?
No.
Okay. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. Feel free to subscribe, like, comment.